In Python, it exists this concept that variables are objects. What do I mean that they are objects? An object, it's a way to gather functions, methods, variables, many things inside one object. It's a way to encapsulate all this. And this encapsulation inside an object, each one of the variables that you create, it's a type of object. To explain this a little bit more and maybe give you a little bit more insight is what do you happen when you create an object in Maya? Well, let's create a sphere but with Python, or a cube with Python. So I'm going to start by importing pyml.core as PM, and then I'm going to create a polycube. So I'm going to do a pyml.polycube. And this is going to return me two objects. The first object, I can print this just to see what it's returning. And let's try and see what is returning. I'm going to click it. And this is what is returning. It's returning two objects, one transform and one polycube. As you can see, when you create an object, a primitive, like this, you have several nodes that are created. Let's go and check the node editor. You have the cube and you have the cube shape. But also you have a cube creation node, which is the one that generates the geometry. So this function returns two different objects. First, the polycube, the transform. I'm going to catch it like this. And after the transform, it returns the cube creation node. The cube creation, I'm going to call it. And now here I am catching these two objects. These are Pyml objects, right? And after I catch these objects, I can access their attributes and properties. And sometimes they have functions. In this case, the cube creation, for example, has some attributes. And these attributes are exactly the attributes that you can access in Maya. For example, for the polycube, you can access an attribute called width. I could catch this cube creation node and just click dot width, access the property width. Actually, this width is also another object, and I'm gonna use a function inside this object that's called set. And I'm gonna set the value to 2. I'm gonna do now the exact same thing but with the height. I'm going to do height, and I'm going to set the value to 4. Let's create this object. Let's run this code. And there we go. I'm creating the object, and I'm setting the two attributes here through other two objects. So this is an object, and it's a way of encapsulating everything. So it's encapsulating the cube, and it has all the attributes, and you can access them through functions. So that's an object. It's a way how object-oriented programming works and how it encapsulates things. So let's go back to the variables inside Python. I was talking about Python, and I'm going to paste this just here so you can have it here. And I was thinking about other types of variables that you can create. You can create, or the variables that we already create also. So far we have created variables of type string, integer, and float numbers. But these are really objects. How do I know that they are objects? Well, they are objects just because they have functions. For example, if I go to string, I create a string. So this is my name. This string, let's call it sentence, equals this. I'm gonna print this sentence, but maybe I'm gonna use a replace. So I'm gonna write a sentence, and inside this object, functions exist. So for example, in this case, maybe I want to replace. Let's try replace. I'm going to replace, and I'm going to replace the string that says name with the string that is maybe my name. So I'm going to put here Daniel. Okay, so in this case, I'm replacing in the sentence name with Daniel. And let me run this. And there we go. I print it, and let me print it again. Oh, I'm not printing it. I'm sorry. I need to print it. I'm just replacing. And there we go. This is my Daniel. I just replace name with Daniel. Or maybe I should change this for my name is. Oh, but if I put my name, I couldn't replace name. Maybe I need a token here. The real name maybe, and this is the token. And if I run this, it will print my name is Daniel, just because I'm using this function inside the object. There are other functions, like for example, this is not the best way to format a string. There are other ways. For example, there is a function that's called format. Format is specifically to rename strings, and in this case, with format, you don't need to provide a token that you're going to replace. You just need to put these brackets inside this string, and when you print it, these brackets are going to be replaced with the format function. Sentence.format are going to be replaced with Daniel. Now, if I run this, I can see here that once again the printing reads my name is Daniel. So this is one of the functions that you can have here. There is a building function to see all the functions that you can access in an object. This function is called dir. With dir, you can print all the functions that are accessed or that you can have access inside an object. So for example, here I'm going to print dir sentence. And this is a string. I could put just any string and it will print that. It will look into the object and it will find out what are the functions and attributes. And once I get this dir, it's going to be a list. I'll talk later about lists. Let's print this. And there we go. This is the list of functions that I can execute with this object. So as you can see, for example, it has capitalize, case, fold, center, expand. There are functions to, for example, find if it's all lower letters or if they are all capital, or if I can replace something, if I want to replace a string, if I want to, whatever I want to do on the string, I have functions to do it. And there are many functions. Usually the functions that are printed here, some of them have an underscore or two underscores. Two underscores means that it's not a function made for you. For example, the function add is made automatically, so you can do addition of strings. So for example, if I put here Daniel and name equals and last name equals Ruiz. When I do this plus name, it's calling the function add inside the object. So if I execute this, I will see that I am able to add these two. But I could use, if I'm not mistaken, the function dot underscore underscore add underscore underscore and use the last name here as an attribute. And in this case, I can print this. And let's see what I get. Actually, I'm not sure. Yes, I get exactly the same as you can see. So this function is not meant for the user to use. It's a building function that's inside this object, but maybe it's used by any other function, or maybe it's used in a different way. You're not supposed to do this. You can just do name plus last name, and automatically it will call the addition function. This is how Python is structured. So everything is an object, and each object has inside many functions and many attributes sometimes. And this is a way where you can access them. I'm going to start talking a little bit more after we see other variables. So I just want you to understand that each variable, it's really an object, that it's way more complex than just a string or just a number. It's an object that contains variables and contains functions and it can contain more objects. This is the way an object-oriented programming encapsulates stuff. I hope this was clear, and I think that's it.